Nintendo stuff. Welcome to Nintendo Stuff. My name is Brandon Miracle, and Logan's making way too much noise. Shut up!
Not too much noise, just the right amount of noise.
So this is what it's like on the other side.
Yes.
It's like this all the time. I
Welcome.
always try and ways to poke at him.
So this is episode 60 of Nintendo Stuff. I know it's been a couple of weeks. We've been kind of busy. We had a Christmas party yesterday, which we've been planning for a while. And you might notice there's more people here at the desk than usual. My name is Brandon Miracle. We got Logan.
Hi.
And joining us today are Santi, he's a Discord mod, friend of the show, and special guest. Introduce yourself.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Dave from Common IDW here. What is going on?
Yes.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, it's great to have you guys here. We've all worked together before, but this is the first time we're all doing the show together from the same place. So this is kind of exciting.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, man. It's good to be nice and close to you.
It might not look like it, but you know, like we're all really squished, and there's like a foot and a half between us and the wall behind us. But we make it work. So some interesting things have happened since we've done the show last. One of them being the Game Awards 2019, and I kind of wanted to start the show with that. And before we get into the awards themselves, I want to talk about the presentation.
Dude, the part where they announced Sora and Smash was like the best part.
It was amazing. I was so glad, it was
Prayers
all I
have been
wanted.
answered.
Okay, I will confess, I've seen like most of the information to come out of the show, but man, I haven't gotten the time to like sit down and like watch the rest of it.
I understand that.
I'll have to admit that the Game Awards 2019 was kind of boring.
Compared to last year, for sure.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I was like, man, I probably could have made time, but also I heard that the actual show wasn't quite as like incredible as they like last year was.
It's pretty sad too, because this is the 5th anniversary of the show, and you know they were making it sound like it was going to be something pretty special. And that's not to say that the show was inherently bad. It's just
You could tell there was effort, but
Yeah.
it just wasn't mind blowing, especially compared to last year.
The show has the budget for sure. Like, there's no doubt about that. It's a great like video game based like piece of media.
we had like a lot of world premieres like we usually do, but if you ask me, and this is coming from a Nintendo fan, so take that as you will, but there wasn't a lot there that appealed to me specifically. They also front-loaded the show a lot. Like the biggest announcements, some of them were pre-show.
The pre-show
Yeah,
felt
what was
like
up
it
with
was
that?
just part of the show, and it felt like they didn't even need to have it labeled pre-show.
No, if you ask me, like the pre-show should have been the first 30 minutes of the actual presentation.
Yeah, I heard people calling the pre-show the part before Keeley was actually ready to come on stage. Yeah.
Basically.
I mean, I did get to watch that part, and I remember being like, well, I guess like in the sense of like some of the stuff had already been announced before, so it wasn't quite as huge. I mean, what was the most significant thing from the pre-show, would you
The Final
say?
Fantasy VII remake trailer.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, definitely.
that was the biggest thing. I think second behind that is probably No More Heroes 3.
That wasn't pre-show?
That was in pre-show.
Oh,
Right.
was it? I don't remember
But
that.
again, both of those things had been announced before. We'd seen an engine game of Final Fantasy VII remake. I honestly, for me, like, the reaction, at least from me, from No More Heroes, was like, oh my gosh, this is a great trailer.
Yeah.
Also, it wasn't even the
It
full
wasn't the full
trailer.
thing, it was like preview.
Yeah, it was a preview of a full trailer that was available online.
Funnily enough,
Yep.
I dreamt of that trailer last night.
It's cool.
The whole opening with that kid Damon and whatever that weird alien thing that he has. They
Yeah,
becomes
Coup
friends
or
with.
something.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
The character designs in that were really neat. And at first I thought it was a completely different game, but at some point before they revealed Travis, I was like, wait a minute, this is No More Heroes.
Yeah, as soon as they said superhero, I was like, oh,
Right.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's cool to know that that's coming. Was they put 2020 on that?
2020
Yeah.
with a good luck from Travis.
Yeah, he laughed. He said, "Good luck with that."
Good.
Well, that's exciting to see. As far as other announcements from Nintendo, one of them, and I don't understand why this was here, it was a reveal of DLC for Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3.
That was literally the first thing that the Switch logo popped in on. I was
Is
like,
that what
"Here
it
we
was? It was DLC?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's DLC.
Okay, I guess it really just went over
I'm
my head.
I'm
was
all
just
for
like,
Cable,
whatever.
Gambit, Dark Phoenix, and who else was it?
That was just a friendly reminder. If
I think that
anything.
was it.
I swear there was a fourth, but they're cool characters. I appreciate them, but it's not the
They
big
haven't been
announcement
like
we were
pushing
waiting
that
for.
game as heavy as they were.
That's something you throw in a Nintendo Direct,
Right? Yeah.
not at the Game
I would
Awards.
just drop it on YouTube. And
Exactly.
Be like, hey,
Anyone play that game?
Nintendo feels threatened by the Game Awards for being too big, so they're like, okay, actually, we're gonna.
I want to set a precedent too. Like, we can't expect Nintendo or any other company to have big announcements if they don't actually have anything to share.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we can't entirely judge the show based on that. And something that they mentioned on Game Explain's discussion about this that I kind of agree with is that they say the show should have less world premieres if the world premieres aren't significant, and then spend the time that they got back from that on the awards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how long was the show
It
overall?
was like 3.5.
It was just under 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's too long.
And thinking
Way
about it,
too long.
I'm not entirely sure what I even watched. Really.
Once you got to the second half, it was just kind of, we're dragging our feet.
So one thing that is a common complaint with the Game Awards, and also one thing with me with the Game Awards, is there's a lot of games that get snubbed publicity-wise and awards-wise. Like Fire Emblem Three Houses won Best Strategy Game, right? It was a side award. It wasn't actually, no one came up on stage to accept that.
Yeah.
A lot of games that got those side awards, like those real quick, oh, by the way, this won something, they need to stop doing that whole. They just need to stop doing that and just have more people come on stage and accept their awards.
The sad part about that, too, is what they did this year is an improvement over the last few years. Like, I think when they were doing those quick awards in the previous years, they didn't even reveal the nominees or talk about them. They just told you who
Yeah.
won and moved on.
By the way, Persona 5 won this, and everyone was like, huh? Yeah, that's what happened last year.
It's kind of disappointing. I don't think every single award needs to be on stage necessarily, but there needs to be more than what we've been getting.
Yeah, especially when like maybe some of those awards might be like the same game, right? You don't necessarily
Yeah, that's
need
true,
to
yeah.
like recognize the same game.
They
like-
did that a few times.
right.
So that's something they're already doing, but I think Disco Elysium ended up on stage twice.
Yeah.
So, it could be better.
Yeah, no, and well, that's being said, I'm not saying never do that, depending on the award, you
Sure.
know. But certainly, like some of the smaller categories, like if it's a repeat, like this is the largest category for this game, and the other ones are pretty, pretty light, then maybe gloss over those ones. But for some of the other ones, certainly, I think what is it? Disco Elysium took like 4.
Yeah.
was, like
Yeah.
the highest.
It was the overall winner in terms of the number of awards taken home.
Yeah.
I would like to see some more transparency on how these are nominated, because obviously we're getting hundreds of games released each year. We're not entirely sure like how those are.
So there's the board of directors for the
Yeah.
Game Awards, which
Oh,
I
really?
believe is consisted of both, people at game development studios, excuse me, folks at the head of, the major video game companies, as well as journalists from, like Kotaku, IGN.
Yeah, they had, on the Game Awards website, they actually had a whole list of every single actual outlet they had voting for each of the
Okay.
nominees.
Pay more attention.
Yeah.
So there's 90% of the vote goes to the board of directors.
Okay.
And then the other 10% is calculated from fan votes. I think that's a pretty good way of handling that, if you ask me, because fan votes tend to get very campaigny, and I don't
true.
think that is representative of what games should be winning.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I think the way they handle that is good. And in a cool change, they actually had a Player's Choice Award this year, where
That was the-
or was 100% fan voted,
Yeah.
and Fire Emblem Three Houses won that. And I'm not gonna say that game didn't deserve it, but I can't help but feel like a little Nintendo campaigniness got involved in that. So not to prove my own point, but you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, but to be fair, it is called the player's voice,
Yes,
right? So, like, who's gonna be the loudest, right?
That's why it works here.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the personality behind Fire Emblem had to do with it.
Yeah.
Oh,
You look at Joe
absolutely.
Zija.
Joe Zija, Fear of the Year,
I just wonder how many like sales of that game
or just because of his
won
tweets.
right? Just because of his stuff, because he did a lot of PR for that.
Yeah, he did. But yeah, so like they should spend more time on the awards, not make them feel like they're throwaway. I think the developer speeches are great. They get a little bit of time on stage. I do want to mention one in particular, and it's not even a developer, nor does anyone associated with video games anymore. It's Reggie Fils-Aimé's speech for the Subway Fresh Indie of the Year award. What a funny name for an award. But anyway, So he did he had 4 minutes on stage for that.
Yeah, he had the longest speech in the whole thing.
Yeah. And I think what he said was really poignant and needed to be heard. He's like, everybody started out as an indie developer, so everyone needs to be recognized. And I thought that was cool. Reggie felt like the most genuine person on that presentation.
Yeah, he's really has a really good stage presence. He feels like he never left when he was on that stage. But also, I also want to talk on how, like, Jeff kept mentioning Reggie was in the building. He mentioned him like 3 times before he actually went on stage, and I thought that was a trigger that he was gonna have something big to show. I thought he was gonna drop a bombshell on stage, but he didn't. And I feel like Jeff hyped him up a little too heavy, knowing the expectations that come with Reggie being there and Nintendo in general. So I feel like people might have did that to themselves, but I'm also just like you felt it, didn't you?
I did.
I definitely did.
Yeah.
It's a little funny because obviously we know he's not in association with Nintendo anymore or video games as a whole. He kind of just does his thing. You know, he's got a reputation for.
He's a college professor now.
Right. Yeah.
But also, sorry.
No, it's fine. But also expecting that, you know, that he has something. I don't think Nintendo's really going to open up.
I mean, we remember PGX, right? Reggie showed up and all he had for us was Cranky Kong.
And a Metroid pen.
And that's when he was working for Nintendo.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's entirely out of left field that he didn't have anything to say.
Yeah, honestly, the thing that I thought, oh, he's coming back. Okay, it could be Nintendo related because obviously he was associated with Nintendo, but maybe he would have been accepting an award for a game that released while he was still president. You know?
Okay, yeah, I could see
like
that.
that was my if I had to guess, but obviously we know that wasn't the case.
I had one inkling as far as what Reggie could have been there for, and we know that in Reggie's long history at Nintendo, one of the questions he always gets is when is Mother 3 coming? So I thought it would have been really funny if Reggie, past his prime as Nintendo president, came to the Game Awards to announce Mother 3 finally.
Hilarious.
That would be incredible.
But sadly, that didn't happen.
Also, I just want to say that Doug Bowser, he's been this is just still his first year being in the position that he is in. But I felt like he was there in the beginning, but I also felt like he hasn't really had that much of a stage presence since like E3 with the Bowser gag.
Sure.
Right.
And I thought he would have maybe at least since then been in the spotlight a little more or something.
He wasn't even. He's not even in the Nintendo Directs, is he?
Other than the E3 thing, he hasn't really been doing too
It's
much.
just Koizumi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Koizumi is becoming the new face of Nintendo as far as, talking directly to fans.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. He's been involved for a long time, and Doug Bowser, I think he'll get better at it, but
Yeah.
I don't.
Reggie was
necessarily-
also a really special case too, because he had a PR team telling him how to perform the first time he was at E3, and he got this reputation as being this really hard guy.
Yeah, that's kind of like the identity we gave him. Yeah.
And everyone really tied up with that. He also happened to star in an E3 that had bombshell announcements the first time he showed up.
really worked in his favor.
Yeah, so I love Reggie, but most of that fame and personality came from the fans. They gave it to him.
Yeah.
So I think Doug's time is coming. Like the whole Bowser bit that's been happening, that's fan forward. I think it will improve as time goes on.
But I also don't think he'll be as central. I just don't feel like he's got that kind of
aura.
Aura is probably a good word.
Nintendo's not trying to push him as the next Reggie.
Yeah, and obviously he doesn't have
Yeah,
to
he doesn't
be,
have to be, yeah.
right? Like he's a CEO, he's got enough things to do. And so, there's a bunch of other people and a bunch of other things they can try, now that it's a new season for Nintendo.
I guess it is kind of strange when you think about, Mr. Iwata after he passed. We all, bless you, we all thought that he would never truly be replaced, and this is not to say that he has, but I feel like Koizumi's done a great job in filling that role for him, as far as, being the voice of the fans, or voice to the fans, rather. So, it's kind of strange not to have that with Doug yet, in the way that Koizumi picked it up after Mr. Iwata. Other things in regards to the Game Awards, we did have one pretty big announcement from Nintendo. I feel like this one doesn't appeal to Nintendo fans at large necessarily, and maybe that's why it fell a little flat. But that's the announcement of Bravely Default 2.
I had some friends that were super hype about that, honestly.
I had thought this had already come out,
You're thinking of Bravely
For the
Second.
second.
which I mean that's the same series, right?
Yeah,
Same
so
series.
Bravely Second is the direct sequel to the plot of Bravely Default.
Oh.
Bravely Default 2, I believe, will be a completely new thing.
It's
Yeah.
like a,
Okay.
it's like a
Different world
It's like
or
a Final
different-
Fantasy 13-2 type of situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, my literal reaction was, huh?
So that's a great announcement to hear. We got a little tiny glimpse at the game world and some of the character models. That game definitely has its fans and might be something I'd like to try out.
Heard a lot of people ask, hoping that they end up porting Bravely Default 1 and Bravely Second to Switch at some point too.
That's the only time
Because
I'll
those
actually
games
play
are
it, I
like
think.
top tier RPGs for the DS.
Dude, give me a bundle.
Yeah.
Give
Absolutely.
me a bundle.
And, since they're a complete story, when you put them together, that's a great way to experience them.
Yep.
So those are all the announcements Nintendo had at the Game Awards this year. And 3 announcements, that's pretty good. That's kind of how they've handled it every year since the first one. So I don't really necessarily have any complaints. I know the big thing, like the big elephant in the room is where was Smash Fighter 5,
That
right?
means it's coming and it's going to be big when it does. That's
Yeah.
all it means, yeah.
It's still slated for February 2020 at the latest.
Yeah, we were literally
We're 2 months away
yeah.
at most.
Wait for that
Well,
January
2.5
direct.
months at most, technically, but 2 months.
Right. So I understand why fans are disappointed, but at the same time, it's like,
We built the hype ourselves.
yeah, we're still getting the character. That doesn't change.
Right, no.
Just the way they present it to us has.
The way they present it to us, and possibly when we get it, because they're gonna announce it, and it's there's gonna be a set like path to like here's where it is, here's where it's coming, and maybe at this point like they'll just reveal it and drop it.
I have a feeling that will happen.
Yeah.
We'll have the direct. It'll get announced, and there will be a Sakurai presentation after the show, and then after that,
Shadow drop.
it's on the eShop. Yeah.
Because some of the other ones they'd announce, and then we'd have to wait for a while, and we get anxious and all of a sudden. But now we just don't know what it is, and we know there's more characters afterwards, so it might be fun just to be like, here it is.
And I've been saying this for a long time, but I have a feeling the reason that they're waiting to talk about this character is because they want to not leave us with just that character. They want to give us a glimpse at the first fighter of Pack 2.
That would be amazing. I'd really appreciate
They want to have
that,
all
honestly.
the schedule and everything lined up just so they can just roll right over.
Yeah, they've been really prompt and really on point with their reveals and, the spacing of the characters coming out, and they don't want to lose that momentum.
We all know what the first fighter in the second pack is going to be, right?
Who?
Kirby 2.
Yes.
I was going to say Joker.
I was gonna say. Just say Luigi, but all right.
Joker steals a Luigi,
He's literally just Luigi,
but green.
but green.
Always green.
And he's always green, and it's all of his color swaps are just different shades of green.
Yes.
But he also
He's gelatinous. A little gelatinous.
Yeah, but it's only cosmetic.
Yes, only cosmetic.
I don't know if the conversation was swinging this way, but really quick, do you guys think we're actually gonna get some what was the word? What's the not a clone? What's the other word?
Echo Fighters.
We're gonna get more Echo Fighters in the next pass, along with new characters, or
I think Echo Fighters, if they are released, they will be free.
yeah.
So I feel like I definitely think there's more coming, but I don't feel like we're gonna have to pay for them.
At most, maybe like $1.
Yeah.
I don't think they would.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll get Echoes necessarily for fighters we already have. I could see us paying for the fighter pass and then maybe getting an Echo Fighter of a new fighter that we get.
Kind of like
Simon and Richter. Yeah.
Yep.
So, like, if say we are to get Sora, I don't think it'd be out of the realm of possibility
Riku Echo.
to get either Riku or Ventus or Roxas
or
My
Mickey.
son.
or Mickey.
Boy, I'd main Mickey.
You know,
I don't
going
care
back-
what you say.
Going back to that thing about revealing the first fighter in the second pack, assuming that they're doing that, we all did kind of find it a little bit jarring that they revealed that they're working on more characters when Terry dropped.
That was early. Yeah.
So maybe they're kind of keeping that schedule, ahead, I guess.
So you're saying by February
But,
2020 we're gonna have 2 more?
No.
characters.
In February, we're gonna know who
No,
the
but
first
I do think
is
it's very
and have a
possible
date.
that like they've already got something in the works, and then that first fighter in the
Like
second
the
pack.
pipeline's
They'll
just
have
moving
something
already.
already.
They're
Yeah.
like, oh, we're working on the 5th, and oh wait, we started working on the 6th.
It's not especially common for Nintendo to reveal something super early. They've been getting really good at that, especially in the last 5 to 6 years. Like they'll reveal a game, and you can expect it to be on the shelf in under 12 months, most of the time.
Most unless you're talking about Breath of the Wild.
Or Bayonetta or
Right.
whatever.
Pikmin 4 is almost done, guys.
When it's explicitly talking about like first party games, well, Miyamoto wasn't supposed to talk about that. Clearly, I gotta scoot my chair back. There we go.
He got a talking to afterwards.
Yeah, you bet he did. Where was I?
Smash.
Smash. Okay.
Yeah.
One of the other things about Smash we should mention is it did win Fighting Game of the Year at the Game Awards.
And no one's really mad about that I've seen.
I mean, it's not like
No.
there's a whole lot
As
of
long
other
as
competition
it
this
wasn't
year.
Jump Force. That's all that matters.
I don't think Jump Force
Yeah,
stood a
honestly,
chance.
the other games, like, not that I've necessarily played the other games necessarily, but like, none of them really made this any much of a splash.
They've not been as big, you know. You've got Sam Show and like, oh crap, we haven't gotten a new Sam Show in years, but like,
Yeah.
I think Sam Show was the only like real contender, wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure it
Honestly.
was. The other ones they kind of just threw in. I don't even remember.
Jump Force was definitely a throwaway.
Bandai was just like, please help us get those sales, please.
There's Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
Which
Dead or
I didn't
Alive
hear
6,
much about.
Sam Show.
I know Dead or Alive 6 doesn't have the greatest reception, and Mortal
Nah.
Kombat 11 I forgot came out.
Wait,
Yeah.
why didn't Dead or Alive 6 win it?
Because who plays Dead or Alive 6 that
Do
you know?
you know what Dead or Alive is?
Yes, I know Dead or Alive is.
It should be obvious.
I do
That's why
actually
it
like
should
some
win.
of those games. I guess the biggest upset, I wouldn't want to call it an upset. That's the wrong phrasing. But for Nintendo fans, the biggest upset is the fact that Sekiro won Game of the Year.
Yeah, I think actually, here's what I'll say. I think that because Super Smash Bros. Ultimate didn't win, Nintendo's gonna retract their statement about more characters, and they might even like,
canceled.
I can't believe you
We're out.
guys
Sakurai
didn't
specifically.
win this for us.
Sakurai's mad.
We're punishing you. So actually, they're going to be removing Home Run Contest and Spirits Mode. They're getting rid of Adventure altogether.
I have to mention, like, I'm specifically surprised that neither Resident Evil 2 nor Control took home Game of the Year.
Yeah.
Because IGN voted Control as their video game of the year.
Control
Right.
is huge.
Control
got a
is
lot more awards than I thought it would have actually.
the game is not underrated. It's underplayed. People just aren't playing it.
Yeah.
So I'd love to get to that game. Sekiro, I don't know. I never got the impression that was Game of the Year
Sekiro
material.
had a lot of hype around the time frame it came out, but I haven't heard anyone talk about it in a good
Afterwards.
minute, honestly.
Yeah.
No, I think the reason why it got a lot of hype is because, you know, it's essentially a Souls-like. It's a faster Souls-like. It's by FromSoft.
From Software game, yeah.
Everyone loves their games, but I mean, after release, where was the hype?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2, I still hear people talking
Yeah,
about that.
everyone talks about that. Like the RE engine, like everyone loves it, and then the
Three
remake
looks really
itself
good,
is
too.
just really good. It's substantial.
Yeah, so I'm
Can
a
we
little
talk
surprised
about
by
the
that.
oddest entry though that also didn't win?
Death Stranding.
No, Outer Worlds.
Was it?
I don't-
Was it nominated?
Yeah,
It was nominated.
nominated for
Oh
Game of the Year.
snap! I
Yeah.
forgot all. Yep.
Because it's Fallout.
I mean, we I think we called this before like it happened. Like Out of the Worlds was not gonna take home Game of the Year.
No.
I
I
think-
liked the game a lot, but I was like, no,
I think
it's
most
not.
of us anticipated that it would be Death Stranding.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah.
Death
I-
Stranding didn't take home as many awards as
Which
Yeah, I
was
thought it was
kinda
gonna
happy about.
sweep.
I
Yeah,
thought it was gonna be a Red Dead Redemption 2 situation all over again. From
Yeah.
last year.
Though that
was
being
so
said, it
boring.
did take home Best Game Direction.
I think
which
that was the
is-
perfect award for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, it makes a lot of sense because I think there's like certain things I've heard complaints about from certain people about the game, but like as like I kind of digest the game a little bit more, even from the outside, it seems like obviously Kojima knows what the heck he's doing.
Yeah.
That
Um,
man, his goal is to do something new, and he succeeded in
Yeah,
that.
and then part of what I thought was cool about the game is just the fact that kind of everybody's worlds, you know, were connected. So like you
Yeah.
put a structure down and that's going to appear in other people's world. And so like I imagine that somebody who doesn't touch the game for 3 or 4 months is going to have an entirely different experience than somebody who like booted it up on day one.
That was my theory for why some of the reviews were kind of on the lower end, is because they weren't having the experience I think that Kojima had intended
Oh, where
for the
like
game
more
to be.
people
yeah,
buying
as
it.
it
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
matured. Yeah.
You know, it kind of reminds me of Nier Automata, when your character dies, you can respawn, but the body that you leave behind is still there. So if you connect to online, other players can either harvest the resources or repair your body as an assist.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and I remember on launch, a lot of people were kind of like confused because they heard about this feature, but there weren't as many players initially.
Yeah.
So I think that's what Nier attempted to do, and Death Stranding got it right, in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then also did like different things.
Right,
with
yeah.
it. Yeah.
And I think Nintendo took home one more award in the best family game category.
That was a
Wait,
weird
what?
one.
How did they manage that? It's not like they had every single nomination in that category,
I
did
didn't
they?
think they'd win it.
Yeah,
The game that got it though was kind of interesting to me though.
I was very
was it?
happy. Luigi's Mansion 3.
Oh,
So it was Luigi's Mansion 3, Ring Fit Adventure, Super Mario Maker 2, Yoshi's Crafted World, and
Smash.
and Smash Brothers Ultimate. But yeah, Luigi's Mansion 3 taking it home, I think, is great because Next Level Games needs the
The
appreciation.
game for sure was it was worth the award. But I thought Smash would have took that one for sure. Because when I think family game, I think multiplayer game, and Smash is like the best multiplayer game in that lineup. But
Absolutely, yeah.
Luigi's
Well-
Mansion 2 though, 3, like a lot of people were saying like that was a great co-op experience that they played with their significant other. et
That's what
cetera,
I
et
want to
cetera.
say, yeah. That was
Yeah.
the best co-op experience I think I've had in years.
Yeah.
really?
Play that game with a friend, family member, or loved one, you will have a great time.
Yeah,
my
I mean,
girlfriend-
part of what makes like co-op great and the best co-op games is when it's required that you have those two parts.
I think
right?
that's the ticket that gave this game the
Yeah. It
award.
didn't
Yeah.
feel tacked on, and even
Yeah.
when like you had someone playing, it was like, oh, I would have did that anyway, but luckily you save us some time because you're here to do that for me.
Yeah,
So
like I'll say it
yeah.
again and again. Like the co-op campaign for Portal 2 is one of the best experiences
It's the gold
I've
standard.
ever
Mhm.
had.
Yeah.
good game.
So overall, now that we've kind of gone through all the awards that Nintendo had any part in, Fire Emblem also won Best Strategy Game. I don't know if you
Yay.
mentioned that.
For sure, yeah.
How did we feel overall about the awards? Santi, I'll start with you.
Just the general,
Yeah.
the entire thing. I was a little lukewarm on it. I think there were a lot of questionable decisions. There were some great moments, like having the Muppets there.
Oh my god,
That
that
was
sequence is
That's
amazing.
part of the
Perfect.
show
I
for me.
Yeah.
I actually laughed. I got some pretty hearty laughs out of that segment. But then I think ending it on Fast and Furious
Gosh.
with
That was-
Vin Diesel
that was a
and
bitter
what's her name? I forget.
Yeah,
I can't remember her
same.
name either.
Yeah. But their whole decision of like,
They ended with Vin Diesel, who didn't even look at the screen. He didn't look at the audience while he talked.
I love the fact that he tried to push himself as like a gamer. He's like, oh, this is
It
this is
came-
my home, and
It came off really disingenuous. And also, the game, the Fast and Furious
Looks
Crossroads, looks awful.
awful.
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
We belong here. We grew up playing that Ken game. What is it called? Street Fighter. Why would you say that?
I get.
How did yourself.
Somebody wrote that for them.
I want to say
that was
though,
so
like
That was
if they
genuine.
legitimately do play Street Fighter like casually and they have fun, that's a group of gamers we still need to recognize. Like we're not just hardcore gamers, right? There's
Sure.
gamers of all types, but like at the same time, that's not the kind of person you put on stage.
Right. No. Especially they've had no interaction with the community. Vin Diesel is a top billed actor.
At those
Yeah.
points, it makes you wonder like how they decide
feel
who
real.
gets on the show. Like,
Right.
do they have criteria?
That
or
had
is it
to be
just
a sponsored
who pays the
segment.
most? 'Cause it's
Yeah,
like, yeah.
that's the one thing that I understand why they had sponsor segment, especially like early on,
And they've
trying to
gotten
get
better
funding.
about it.
Right, certainly, and less is more generally.
No shit, Hyderabad.
Yeah. Ooh, oh my gosh. And then at least if some of the sponsors see if they make sense or
They had
they're-
Samsung there, which I thought made sense for what they were going for.
Right.
It's a gaming TV.
I would say something like even like the spot. I thought it was appropriate. That initially I was like, oh no, what is this crap? But then I was like, oh, actually this makes sense. Was the whole spot with The Rock and Jack Black and the other characters from the new Jumanji movie because they're in a video.
It's a
game,
video
right?
game.
would've-
And
Yeah.
then they
Of course,
also
they were
had
there.
the tie-in with Dreams,
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
which was also very cool, and then I forgave them.
And they
And then I
also
forget-
in Cinemark theaters all over the country,
Sure.
they were streaming the Game Awards at the theater.
It's a double feature.
And before the Game Awards, you got to watch the new Jumanji movie before anybody else.
That's
cool.
very cool.
So it was a really kind of cool thing they did there. So yeah, I think that one made a lot of sense.
Yep.
What about you, Brendan?
For me, I'm also a little bit lukewarm on it, but it's hard for me because like I have always been a warrior for the Game Awards because I feel like it's something that we need as an industry.
Oh, sure.
I love being able to come together and celebrate video games, especially, looking back at the last year and then see how he did. I think Jeff Keighley is one of the greatest people we have in the industry because he legitimately cares about the, video games. He cares about how it all goes down.
Yep.
I still remember that iconic moment with him at the Game Awards defending Kojima from not being able to come because Konami blocked him from entering the country. You could tell in that moment that he absolutely cares about the industry, the gamers, and the people behind the games.
And it's important to recognize the work that goes into these things. These are
It can't be
people's
easy.
lives' work,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and I help these, or I feel that these awards help to kind of destigmatize video games as just something for like a very gamer stereotype.
It's interesting that you
you
say
know?
that because I had an unfortunate event that took place this week, and I had to go on a road trip, and I was in a hotel to watch the Game Awards, and my sister was there with us, and she's not really a gamer, and she was watching the awards with us, and she was enjoying it.
Yeah.
Like, this was something that you could show to a family member, and they could actually maybe respect the industry.
One
Yeah.
thing that I think it was Reggie who said it during his speech, that video games is such a big medium, and we're starting to actually get more people that aren't even in it, like, into it through streams and stuff like esports and
Yeah.
video game awards, because it's big as music, it's as big as movies, it's as big as TV, bigger than TV maybe. And it's like, now that we have the video game awards show, it's streaming, millions of people are watching it, like either live or in post. And now that we have this whole thing, it's amazing.
And then I also think there's more of a respect for different types of games and different types of forms. For example, like once upon a time, if you played, games on your phone, it was just like whatever, what a casual gamer you are. But now there's some like legitimately incredible games
Yes.
on,
The
on
gaming
your
industry-
smartphone.
Yeah.
And obviously it's evolved in other ways too. Like we have VR as a force now, with Beat Saber taking best VR game, which I will sing that game's praises forever.
Good game.
I actually got a chance to talk to some other people about it the other day. It was pretty good. And it's interesting to see all these different companies go all these different directions with what they're trying to do. Obviously, like one of the first things that happened when the show actually started after the pre-show was they revealed, the X series, right? Which I thought was interesting.
That was more like it's a good reveal,
Yeah, it
but
was
a
that's
good
more
reveal.
of a hey, make sure you're at E3 this year.
Yeah, and certainly they're like, oh, it's holiday 2020. I was like, that's really far off. But like, it affects people's lives. I talked to somebody earlier who's had their original Xbox One since launch and hasn't chosen to upgrade, but now they're like, well, I guess it's time.
Yeah.
Especially, oh my gosh, like that actual, like that's all in-engine stuff. And
This is not a
looking
Nintendo
good.
related reveal, but you reminded me. We did get a PlayStation 5 game revealed.
It was the
Did we?
Hellblade,
I
right?
don't remember that.
It was Senua's Sacrifice. It was a sequel to Senua's Sacrifice.
Right.
Hellblade.
That was horrifying.
Is that coming out on PS5? Because
Yeah, it's
that was for X series that they
Oh
revealed.
no,
it
it
with.
was the
It was
other
the
game.
game with the shrine, right?
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Hellblade was an Xbox
Yeah, that
X
was
series
an Xbox
announcement.
Yeah.
But that might have been my favorite reveal of the night because that game, it was all in-engine footage. Some of it's probably, part of it's probably baked, but that game looked incredible.
And it's not going to look the same once it launches.
And
all
don't
this other
forget,
stuff.
the original game was an indie title, and they put
Oh,
it
yeah,
front
yeah.
and center
They picked
as
Now, what
their
is this?
Xbox X
Didn't
X Series
Hellblade 1
game.
just come to Switch not too long ago?
Yep.
Yeah.
Am I like just creating false memories, or did I actually see like in the end of that trailer like a Switch logo and like PS4 or something?
No,
Maybe
that was,
I don't think
that
so.
was all exclusive to X series.
Was it? Mm.
Yeah, that was exclusive.
Yeah, they're
think it was
really
something
pushing
else, I
those
guess.
exclusives, especially since like the entire life of the Xbox One has only seen like the good exclusives are like Forza. That's it.
And before we wrap up on the Game Awards, we'll get you guys' opinions. What did you think of the show? I mean, you only got to see so much of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, just again, I saw some of the musical performances, which I wasn't as hot on the musical performances, though I understood why, and they fit a lot better than just like, oh, here's.
It made sense that Churches there.
Well, that's funny. Churches has been there before, but when Churches was there last time, it was like, oh, Churches is here. Now it's like, oh no, they actually helped
they were in a
music
game.
Right,
in
yeah.
the game, and they're like, okay, that makes a lot more sense. And other things such as that. I don't know. I think just really, I don't want to sit through 3 hours. Maybe 2 hours. I was anticipating 2 hours, and you guys said 3 hours, and I was like, cut it down. Cut it down.
If you're not gonna have your big announcements or really spend a lot of time on the awards, 3 hours is way too much. As far as musical performances go, I do want to give a shout out to the Game Awards Orchestra.
Always.
That was great.
Always.
Yeah.
That's like the best part.
It's always
That's
the best part. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that they've been doing this now with every show. Is they have the Game of the Year piece that they do where they like
The
do
montage.
segments of all the games. Yeah, that's great.
Hearing Lifelight come on, oh, I got so many chills. It was an experience.
You can tell they have fun playing that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And also the dude who did the vocals for the Resident Evil 2 part, I was like, oh, this is good.
he sounded great.
yeah, soul in that one.
I think, with every year the budget increases obviously as viewership increases, and that sort of thing, like the musical performances, not just from the orchestra but from Churches, from Green Day, from Grimes, all these big names. It definitely, going back to what we were talking about earlier, it helps the reputation a lot.
Yeah.
My mom and sister were passing by, like, oh, is that Green Day? Oh, is that Churches? Is that you're watching Grimes? Like,
It helps build that broader appeal.
yeah.
Yeah.
Suddenly people are more interested, and they realize that gaming is not like a small thing.
Yeah.
The lead singer of Green Day, Billy Joe, right?
Mhm.
Had an awful vocal performance. It's like listening to this, and I was like, what?
I was like with a friend who likes Green Day, and I was just like, "What are they saying?" And then she was like, "Oh yeah, no one knows, dude. It's just Green Day." And I was like, "Yeah, okay."
I think the best performance they've ever done at the Game Awards is they had that acoustic piece for Red Dead 2 last year.
Oh yeah.
That gave me
Oh.
chills.
Yes,
It was
yes,
fantastic.
Yes, it was so good.
Think
yeah,
about the last
more
Even
stuff
though
like
that
that.
game was really lackluster.
More stuff like that. And then David, before we wrap up Game Awards, what's your final thoughts?
Yeah. So the Game Awards, as far as Nintendo stuff specifically goes, of course, it was like there wasn't as like that memorable moment like there has been in the last 2 years, I believe. Because last year, obviously, it was the Smash
Joker.
whole Smash
That was
thing,
insane.
Joker. That was like I don't think that can be topped for a minute.
The
That was,
year
like, probably
before
the best
that, they
thing.
did the Breath of the Wild DLC drop.
Oh yeah, they did that. Yeah. And then also I think that same year might have been Bayo 3, was it? The Bayo 3 trailer?
Yeah,
I
it was
really
Bayo 3.
expecting to see some Bayo 3
Yeah,
this
yeah.
year.
So it's like, as far as the
Games never
Nintendo
coming
memories
out.
goes, like those have been the biggest key points for me. But I don't have one of those for this year, so I'm just like, this one feels a little like past for me.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like a show in itself, like it's still a good award show for sure. But if what you were expecting isn't there, then it just becomes a little skewed for whoever's watching, I guess.
That's true.
Yeah. So 2 things. One, I did want to mention one of my favorite moments. And it was also one of the moments that really made me want to play Disco Elysium, which was the acceptance speech for best narrative for Disco Elysium. And the devs came on stage and they shouted out some dead people, and I was really down for that. And then they also, what was it? What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, just in general with the Game Awards, it's, there will be better years. There's going to be worse years. I think there's nothing you can really do about that. There's always going to be like, oh my God, there's no way that they could beat last year.
It's the
or
same
vice
thing in
versa.
E3, right?
So it's always good to reflect upon it and say like, okay, what are people really going to enjoy? For example, my big critique is like less time. I don't need a 3-hour show. And so, yeah, hopefully, Jeff and the rest of the Game Awards team is, really
Taking the
reflecting.
criticisms,
Yeah. And trying to make an even better show for next year. And seems like they do that every year. Seems like in certain regards they can get overzealous, but who can't?
I guess
You know?
it hurts a little bit more this year when you consider how great of a show last year specifically was. Like all around, last year was great.
Going from a high to like a halfway point.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, okay.
But that said, like you said, Logan, it's something they're always going to be improving on, and there are things about this year where it's clear they were improving on, like the I guess we can call them the throwaway awards where they don't have them on stage.
Yeah.
Like I said before, they didn't list the nominees last time, and they did that this time. So
Yeah.
small improvements, hopefully some bigger strides next year. But overall, I still think it's a great centerpiece to the industry.
It is. It's like, again, and then it sucks in the industry, right? It's considering like, oh, here's all these journal outlets and how, they're going to consider it. These are people who actually have played all these games, and so they're having an educated opinion when they're actually considering all this other stuff. So yeah, I love that the Game Awards is a thing, and yeah, here's to an even better show next year.
One thing I think people got to remember also is the Game Awards is the youngest award show on TV or any streamed media at this moment in time. Everything else is like in their 20 to 30 plus 50. Like the Grammys has been around for a long time. The VMAs has been around for a long time. The GMAs, all the global, all the stuff. Golden Globes, all that stuff.
There's even an award show for country music.
Exactly. But the Game Awards for sure is super fresh. And also I think one thing that sets the Game Awards apart from everything else is one thing that a lot of people actually watch the Game Awards for is the reveals.
Yes.
And like most people kind of watch the Game Awards as a reveal thing, like a Nintendo Direct type of situation. So if the reveals don't reflect the hype that they're expecting, then also they kind of judge it off that. But everything else is, every other award show is just performances and show.
I do feel like a lot of it is influenced by the fact that it just does feel like an E3 presentation.
Yeah.
You've got all these people coming up on stage. There's a giant screen. You've got the devs talking about, what they're working on, that sort of stuff. You just also have awards. I feel like that's how a lot of people view it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally down with announcements, obviously. But if they're not going to announce anything, backtrack a little bit, cut it down.
Yeah. We need quantity over quality over quantity, excuse me. No, not more quantity. Don't reveal, XYZ mobile game for me, please. But moving on from the Game Awards, we've got Logan desperately trying to open a link.
Yeah, I don't know what it's doing.
You're
but
right.
The next one, next thing going on here is about Bravely Default 2 and how the staff are pumped, especially because of the reaction to Bravely Default 2.
Yeah, the fans of that series have been really positive, and I think just by the sheer fact of being on Switch, more people are just excited that game got announced because now they can try it.
Oh yeah.
I know a big detractor for me from playing Bravely Default was just the fact that it was on the 3DS.
It came out pretty late in the life cycle of the 3DS, and at that point I was like, I just want to play my Switch,
Yeah, I don't want to sit there and look at a tiny screen.
Last night I was talking to a friend, Josiah, about it, and I told him I never got past the first 2 hours because, even if you're playing on an XL, it's still a 240p screen.
Mm-hmm.
There's still very detailed hand-drawn art that you're not going to see, especially since the game opted for very panned out camera angles.
Yeah.
It's just not functional.
Bravely Default 2 coming to
sense?
Switch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bravely Default 2 coming to Switch is just another reminder that there's a lot of big games that were on the DS, how there's still games coming trickling in from the Switch. There's still games on the DS that need to get new games, and they're coming to Switch.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I can't think off the top of my head what other games there are that aren't on Switch yet.
Awakening. Kid
Wait,
Icarus. Yep.
Fire Emblem.
Yep. Kid Icarus Uprising.
Oh yeah, another Kid Icarus game.
I feel like Kid Icarus Uprising gets mentioned every time there's
Every
a
time.
podcast here.
Yeah.
Yes,
But it's a good game, and
Keep the dream alive.
man. Oof.
but it's nice to see the developers happy because that is more of a niche series.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an interesting story going to Pokemon. Sorry, we're having issues with our phones.
Doing it
here.
live.
That's the live show for you.
This is trash. What the heck?
So, the Pokemon Company have been given the green light for further action against the people who leaked Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Ooh.
And this comes from My Nintendo News. They said, we reported a few weeks back that the Pokemon Company were planning to take action against those who leaked Pokemon Sword and Shield information online. Well, it now seems as though they have been given the green light to do this, and they will now be able to take further actions against those who originally leaked information about the two highly anticipated games. The order has been officially granted by the courts.
They did.
By the courts?
By the courts.
Jeez.
So,
That's awesome.
This is when you're like, was it worth it? Was it worth it?
Well, okay, yes. This is a mixed bag for me. Because on one hand, I'm like, are you guys kidding? Like, you're leaking, like, the game before it's launched. Like, that's really awful. But also, like, what kind of action, right? What's an appropriate response? To me,
this
like,
is a statement. That's all it is.
yeah. For me, like, okay, but let's talk about that. Let's what would be reasonable, like and then also what could you?
What typically happens in these situations is, they're going to ask for a certain amount of money and damages, and then they're going to use that to dissuade other people from doing the same thing, but then they will settle behind the scenes, and they'll probably not get off that bad.
Well, right. But
this is literally just to detract from it happening again.
Well, but it's always going to happen. That's the thing. There's some idiot down the road is going to do it, and any reasonable person is going to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm obviously not going to do that because there's going to be repercussions."
The issue where they get stuck is like if they don't do or say anything, then it sets a precedent. It's like, oh, well, now we can do it.
Yeah, but because they don't allow it to do, there's no guarantee that was going to happen in the first place because most people aren't. Obviously, taking action is like appropriate. But like to what extent?
Depends on what it is,
yeah.
So I don't know.
I feel like in this situation, if they don't do anything, it just gets worse.
I don't think that's a guarantee, but I should say like I don't know.
They have to keep it a taboo.
Bar them from like ordering pre-ordering those games or getting them ahead of time. You know.
I mean, they'll probably ban their Nintendo Online accounts and other things like that.
I mean that would be like a reasonable thing to do. It's like, no, okay, you gotta,
You breach the terms of service.
Yep.
I think as a player, it's always funny. Strange rather, seeing these things happen. Back in when was it? Like December, late December, early January.
With Smash?
No, with Cage. Oh my God, Smash was bad.
The whole game.
The whole game, like 2 weeks before release.
Yeah, and
I had friends who were pirating that, like.
Yeah, it was just leaking online.
And
people were playing it.
Just as a player, that's an awful feeling because it's unavoidable most of the time. You see all these like spoilers, and it's not fun. Like you built your hype up for all this time, and you see that people got it early. And it's like
it's not fun to play by the book, but we do it because we respect the teams who made the game.
Say what you want about the companies with millions of dollars, but like they're. For me personally, there's actual people working on that
absolutely.
Stuff,
There's still people, single man and his team working on the game. Mm-hmm. In other Pokemon news, in January 2020, a 7-episode animated web series called Pokemon Twilight Wings will debut. So for those of you who've been following the Pokemon anime, the main series anime, they have been kind of veering off the path that they've usually done. Ash isn't running around collecting badges. It features every region the series has seen so far.
I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So in order to kind of fill that gap a little bit, they're having this little mini series that'll premiere on YouTube that focuses specifically on the Galar region. So if that's something you're looking forward to, or you were hoping for, it's coming, just kind of in a shorter form.
There was that image that they posted. Is that actually, do we know if that's going to be the actual art style? Or
this is official art for the show.
It was just like, is it a promo, or are they actually going to go with that visual style?
It's by Studio Colorado, who did the 2018 anime film Penguin Highway, which has kind of a dreamscapey anime look to it. Okay. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's how the show looks.
I mean, it looks great.
I really love what Pokemon Company has been doing with the Pokemon anime as of late. Like since the Sun and Moon like art style change.
Yeah.
And everything that they did with that, seeing that they're going from more like we're just gonna put Ash in the world of Pokemon and just let him do what he needs to do. Yeah. Like, and just give him adventures instead of making it just a straight beeline, cut and paste.
From the games.
New region, go get those badges type of thing. Yep. And it's like, it's kind of annoying in a way where they put so much work into the anime, but the games are the same thing every time. I'm just like, can we please get that team on the games, please? Like...
Yeah,
Every
that
time,
would be
yeah.
nice. I think a great example of how well the Pokemon anime is been doing recently is Pokemon: The Power of Us. I think the most recent movie before Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution.
Yeah.
Because that movie is the sequel to the I Choose You movie, and
good.
it's just kind of separated from the Pokemon anime. It features Ash and Pikachu, but it focuses so much on the characters and the way they're feeling and the struggles they're going through in a way that the series has never done before. And I feel like this is a great direction for the show and actually encourages me to actively watch
Makes
it.
me want to watch it.
Yeah.
Both of those points actually kind of makes me hope for, you know, in the future we get something that's more JRPG-ish in terms of the plot. Like, okay, you've got something that's much more character-driven.
They did it once with Black and White.
Yeah, that's
And
my
then
favorite.
people got mad for some reason and they stopped.
Because it's ugly, so they say. But, you know, maybe have, like, the gym badges. Like, obviously, like, we don't want to get rid of that. Like, we love fighting gyms. You know, Sun and Moon had the totem Pokemon. That was still...
It was the thing.
It was, you know, it was the
different, a little
same
different,
function.
yeah.
You know, maybe have it as like more of a side thing, and then have like a central plot.
A
to
central
go with
plot.
It.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'd love it.
So yeah, so that's some good news in the Pokemon world. Logan, do you have the next story queued?
I do. Smash Ultimate is apparently the best-selling fighting game in the U.S. now.
So
Which
it
is
was
funny 'cause
previously
I-
the world.
Yeah, I was like, wait, it's already outsold what was previously the best-selling fighting game in the U.S.
Street Fighter 2.
Super Smash Bros. Brawl.
Oh.
Yeah, so
I thought you were talking
Brawl
about
had sold more. Actually, yeah. So I mean, but of course, Smash Bros. Ultimate overcame it.
We're
Because
gonna
of
just,
course it did.
We're just gonna keep seeing this like for every territory
Yeah.
over time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool to mention it every time it happens because it just shows like how much of a powerhouse this game is.
It's not a fighting
game. What? Who said that? What's this game award doing here?
I don't see Sam show with it. No, I'm just-
Ooh.
That was pretty validating for the Smash community, I have to say.
it was.
Yeah.
So there's some new Super Nintendo and NES games available on the NSO service that we haven't talked about since we haven't been live for a couple weeks. But I just want to bring those up really quick because this is the first time they've added games since the Super Nintendo service launched in September.
Yeah, but we got a good chunk.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So we got Star Fox 2, which was previously exclusive to SNES Mini.
Which honestly means now you can just toss that thing in the trash because like.
I did.
Oh.
Super Punch Out, Kirby Superstar. This is a great game to play online.
Amazing game.
Yeah, but
Oh, yeah, it does
specifically
have
online.
Yeah.
Breath of Fire 2.
I started playing that the other day on the bus.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I've never played it before, so it's pretty cool. It's cute. not very far
Is it an RPG? What is it?
It's a JRPG.
Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
Journey to Silius and Chrysalis, which is a game I've heard Andre at Game Explain talk about a whole lot.
Those last two are
NES games. Yeah. In one of the first times this has ever happened, we got more games than Japan did.
What did Japan get?
There were a couple of these that they didn't get. I don't remember offhand which ones, but in replacement, they did get Famicom Wars.
Yeah, that was like the one thing because like I'm a big fan of like Advance Wars,
And that
right?
that's the original game.
yeah,
is
Famicom Wars
Yeah.
is the original game.
So that's kind of a bummer, but
That game also never made it to the.
it never came
US,
stateside,
so.
right? But that hasn't stopped them. There's a Super Nintendo game on the American version
That is
that's
just-
Japanese.
that's in
It's
Japanese.
Puyo Puyo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started playing that. I was like,
I hope
oh
they
my
keep doing
god,
that.
I'm good.
Honestly, putting
I
Japanese
would like
exclusives on
Fire
there.
Emblem.
I think they're realizing that since we can access whatever eShop we want,
do it,
that
bro.
people are going to download them anyway.
right.
Yeah.
Also, I should say though that with Puyo Puyo, like it's not like it takes a lot of text to get
That's
how to
true.
play that game.
Even if you accidentally like go into
Yeah.
menus or whatever, like you're
Yeah.
gonna figure it out eventually.
Yep. Yeah, there's like a few selections because I've played it a few times.
Yeah.
A few things. I'm like, okay, whatever, and then you start playing the game. You're
Yep.
like, oh, okay.
It's what I wanted.
So
So we're getting close here to the end of the show, but before we wrap up, there's always a few things I want to do. First of all, I kind of want to get a read of the room. What have we been playing?
I've been going into my Cage 3 run. I've been at it for months. It's just really grueling.
This is your critical mode run?
Yeah.
Okay.
mhm, Yep. Yep. It's hard. You get a few extra abilities at the start and stuff to kind of boost you into gameplay. I've been really just working on my movement and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Smash. Not a whole lot recently, honestly. I
Things are
haven't-
quieting down a little bit.
Yeah.
For me, especially this weekend, been playing a lot of Smash Brothers, which is
Oh, yeah.
always a great time. One game that I've been talking about a little bit over the last couple of weeks is AI: The Somnium Files. I did finish that. I finished AI: The Somnium Files, about 30 hours of gameplay. It's a contender for Game of the Year for me.
Whoa.
I loved it. It's really cool, and I hope you guys get a chance to play it. It's on sale right now on Amazon. Paul just told me he bought it and he got it for $15, and it's a $60 game. So
Okay.
take that as you will.
That's a-
Yeah, it's
I'll
also
figure
pretty
that out.
wonderfully crude from what I've seen too.
In both good and very bad ways.
So if you're
It's a
too
Yoshi-
young,
Yoshi-Koshi
I can't
game.
recommend it. But for anybody who's 18 and up, at the very least, it's like
Yes, play it.
some good stuff.
So what have you been playing, Logan?
I've been playing an amalgamation of things. So like when I was home visiting my siblings and my parents, I played a little bit of Stardew Valley. I'm waiting, highly anticipating the 1.4 update for that game for on Switch. It's
Right.
already out on PC. But they've made a lot of quality of life changes. They've added a bunch of stuff. Also, Stardew Valley is just one of my favorite games in the sense that like they have never sold any DLC.
It's all been free,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
He just keeps building out the game, which is like, I mean, what's better than just having a self-contained experience, right? Without having to spend extra money to have more experience or anything like that. It's just everything self-contained, especially when it comes to like the economy. Like some games, especially when they have like an in-game economy, that can get sometimes pretty predatory.
Yeah.
With the way that they're like, oh, they want to encourage you to actually purchase this stuff.
Kart Tour.
Yeah,
Oh,
but not with something like Stardew, and I think it's still beautiful. I mean, it's not like that has a huge team that they have to pay, and it really is a passion product for Concerned Ape # Eric Barone.
He developed the game alone? Or
He
was-
developed the game alone, and then when they were porting it, he published it like through Chucklefish.
Yeah.
And then I think he got some more of the team to help with that. But now he has gone back to just doing it alone.
It's got to be so nice for him because, like, he won't have to sell DLC because, like, that product was almost entirely him alone. So most, if not all of the money just goes to him and he can live on it.
Right. But I mean, even that being said, even if he did have a small team, I guarantee the amount of revenue that he's made
They
from
could
that
all live on
game,
that,
they
yeah.
could live on that and definitely make more
Hopefully.
games, obviously. Like they wouldn't
Ideally.
ever have to if they, I mean, nobody would have to if they didn't want to, right?
Yeah.
Not that I'm knocking paid DLC. Sometimes I think it's perfectly reasonable to ask for a little more money for more content. That being said,
It
there's-
depends, like, especially when you have such a large team working on it. Like in the case
Yes.
of Smash, where, you have all of Sora and a big chunk of Bandai working on those.
Oh yeah, no, certainly. And again, certain parts of it I won't complain about. And it also really depends. Like I'll resent it if it affects the game in negative ways.
Yes,
With like
absolutely.
something like Smash, it doesn't. It's like here's an extra character.
You're talking
Okay,
like
right.
pay to win.
Yeah, or like I like to watch
Crummy
Jim.
loot boxes.
I love watching Jim Sterling, and his favorite thing right now is like crapping all over Fallout 76. Still,
That
and then
price model
Bethesda in
is
general.
bad. Yeah.
Bethesda in general. So I mean, when it gets to that point, it's like okay, no, too far, right? But I digress.
Capcom, when they released Devil May Cry 5, or right before it, they announced that the game would have quote unquote microtransactions, and a lot of people were really mad about that. I think this is the only case I've never, like, I don't mind it at all. It's literally just like, okay, in every Devil May Cry game, you use red orbs, which is the in-game currency, to buy new skills, to level up your abilities, that sort of stuff. If you want, you can just make a one-time purchase. I think it's like $20 to get a max amount of orbs.
So basically,
Yeah, you can buy everything straight up.
it's pay to win, but it's something you can just do by playing the game.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for the top players or whatever, they're like, hey, I want to do combos.
Another game I'll mention real quick that has DLC, but it's a lot of small stuff. It's cosmetic and it's totally not it doesn't bother me all that much is something like Monster Hunter World.
I was thinking about that.
Like
Yeah.
they'll have extra gestures, they'll have stickers and all this other,
Hairstyles.
whatever. And it would be cool
You
if
and
that
I
all
even bought a
that's.
jester once.
Oh yes,
We bought the
yes.
Hadoken.
Yes, we
Oh,
did.
that's a nice one.
And like even though like ultimately, personally, it would be better if it was all just free. Like I get it, especially with something that's so online and they want to keep monetizing it, but they don't want to charge people like to keep playing online.
We play online for free, and for that game. I
other
mean,
than paying for the
like
service.
PSN,
Yeah,
right.
but if
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
on like Steam or something like that,
Then it's
you
free,
wouldn't.
It's
yeah.
an amazing multiplayer experience. Yeah.
So David, what have you been playing?
The best way to describe what I've been playing is there's not enough life for how many games I have to play. Like I've been jumping all over the place, dude. I'm gonna go like maybe top 3-4 games I've been playing as of recently. So I got a review code for this game called Tools Up, which we were actually playing downstairs not too
Yeah.
long ago, and I'm not. So overcooked. It's an Overcooked like, which
Yeah.
honestly is a genre that should probably get a couple more games in it because Overcooked set a standard for multiplayer havoc, and also matched the amount of I want to kill my friends that Mario Party hits. So Tools Up is imagine Overcooked, but instead of cooking food in a kitchen, you're all contractors, construction workers trying to do work in a house. So you have to replace the floors. Put up the wallpaper, paint the walls, etc., etc. Don't blow the house up.
I was
So-
not prepared for how fun that was. Gonna
Yeah,
be.
the game is super
was-
fun, dude.
The first time I've ever played a game like that, and so now like I really want to jump into Overcooked.
So yeah, like I
our
was
entire
telling-
session was the funniest thing.
especially that last round.
Logan,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Stepping
so,
in.
Yeah, I came down and I was like, okay, this looks really legit. This looks like Overcooked. It honestly looks even better than Overcooked. And then I jump in there, hardly knowing the controls, hardly knowing how it functions. And then also the rest of the team was just trash. And then like it went really badly, and I was like, you know what? This is a bad game. Bad game. Don't need to play this anymore. And it's
You
not
can't
it's
say
not
that.
it's not a
It's
bad
not.
game. It was a harder level. It wasn't like one of the first levels.
Is this
I'm
game
being
still under
facetious.
embargo?
I don't think so.
Okay, then maybe you can say that.
But yeah, the
Obviously
game
it's
is the
not
game is
that
really
bad.
fun for sure. The game is really fun. You should pick it up if you like Overcooked type of games. Like I said, with like Overcooked, it like the third level, all of a sudden you're going from cutting up like carrots in a regular kitchen making soup, and then now you're both in moving vehicles, and now you got to toss the carrots to the other car, and then you have to serve up the things in a hot air balloon and a volcano in the snow. So this one's just houses with a whole bunch of factors, and you have to just plan the best ways to do certain actions. So
The progression is also kind of built around Overcooked, where they slowly introduce new
Yeah.
things to you. Yeah, I had a blast.
really good.
Now, what
game.
was this called again?
It's called Tools Up.
Tools Up.
Yes, and it's I think it's $15-20 on the eShop, so check that game out for sure. Another thing we played recently that is really dope. If you have the Shovel Knight Treasure Trove game,
Yes.
they just recently added the King of Cards, which is the King Knight DLC, and they also added Shovel Knight Showdown, which is basically a Smash-like from the Shovel Knight universe, which is super fun.
I was not prepared for like how cool and varied that was going to
Yes,
be.
Yeah.
like it goes all over the place. It's basically every single character that you fight in the games are now playable. You get to use their movesets in different levels from the game, from all the different games that they've made. They have different like gameplay styles. Like there's either you're trying to beat your friends and collect gems over the levels, or you're trying to just beat them and take their stocks. But then there's also this thing called Chester's Choice, which becomes some Mario Party types like silliness, where
was so
a literal grid shows up, it goes through all different options, it picks one, and all of a sudden that's what you're playing in that next mode. And you can either be doing free for all, or you can be doing team based battles. It's real fun.
There was
Lots
the
of
one where it
unlockables.
turned us all into fairy versions of
It was
ourselves.
so funny.
Yeah,
like,
we had
you're
to
just
collect
these tiny
gems.
little
Yeah.
chibi things, and then you've got none of your original moveset. You can fly around, and you have an air dash that damages people. And it's a fun time.
Another thing I thought was cool is we were steadily unlocking content while we
Yeah.
were playing.
Oh yeah.
And there's also like a whole story mode for that game too. And like I haven't been touching Treasure Trove because I knew this was coming, and also like there's so much content in the Shovel Knight verse that I haven't even finished the first Shovel Knight. Like disclaimer,
Okay.
but I need to, and I'm just gonna go all through all
Great
of those
game.
games now. Yeah, but really good game. Going into non-Nintendo territory, I've been playing a lot of League of Legends, which is totally some interesting character development for me because I never played League of Legends until like 4 months ago, because they had their 10th year anniversary thing back in like September, October, and that was like the perfect time to jump in because they were promoting the game like crazy online and on TV, and they also dropped a documentary on Netflix called League of Legends Origins, which I actually highly recommend you watch, even if you don't like League of Legends or you've never touched it before. It is a very interesting story of just how this team made this whole game, and then they actually became one of the first games to start the esports scene, or like one of the bigger names of the esports scene. Like League of Legends won like best esports game this year at the Game Awards.
Yeah, it did.
And also best esports event. So it's really cool. Like, I didn't play League of Legends at all through high school, but I had a lot of friends who played it. I jumped in to try it out 2 separate times before now. Don't know how it stuck this time, but I'm in. And it's really fun. For sure. It's free to play, so just nag some friends and get them to try it out, for sure.
Yeah.
And last game I have been playing really heavily. Watching a lot of DuckTales, but that's not a game.
Well, it is a game.
I'll just say Ring Fit Adventure. I've been playing that off and on. I should be playing it more. Get those melt those calories. But really good game. I got it. Me and my friend were trying to do a 30-day challenge where we play the game for 30 days every single day. That fell through. So I'm just playing it when I can. I do need to add it more to my regimen because whenever I play it, I sweat. I sweat.
That game makes you hurt.
Yeah, like I'm on the second world, and I'm gonna have to fight the dragon again. And his boss battles, when you're like equal level as him, can take like 30 minutes.
I remember like the first time Logan tried it. That boss battle was something for you.
Yeah, I played it and then I just didn't anymore.
Like I really need to be jumping back into Ring Fit Adventure because like it's just a straight up just RPG. It's a solid game, plays very well. It's just I have to get mentally prepared and just bite the bullet and play the game and just progress.
It's the first like
Think of
fitness
it less
game
as-
I've
yeah.
played that really pushed me.
Think of it less as a workout and more of just let's play this game for a little bit and just do it. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
just keep lying to yourself. It doesn't hurt.
You know what? Sorry.
Yeah,
Did you
you
have
go,
another
yeah.
thing? Just going back to mine because I just realized I have been actually consistently playing one game over the past like 6 months. Like it's the only one that I haven't dropped. Like for whatever reason, Akane, tiny indie game. I don't even know what the sales are like because I looked it up online. Nobody talks about it.
I don't think I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's a arcade shooter. It's like a cyberpunk sort of themed.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're familiar with like Ghost in the Shell, it's basically that. It's got a like the music is solid. Anyway, so the core mechanic is that you're this girl named Akane. You've got a gun and you've got a katana.
Mm-hmm.
One hit, one kill. So yeah, it's really challenging. There's a plot. There's like a through line, but you have to fight 800 enemies like successively. Like yeah,
Without dying?
without dying in order to experience the story. And I've only gotten up to like 300 because that game gets tough. Like you start out
That's
with
cool.
just 4 enemies around you, and then eventually like as you keep going, like you want to focus on your combos and stuff because that's how you get upgrades and abilities and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great time because you can change your loadout and stuff.
That kind of reminds me of Metroid 2, where the whole point of that game is to exterminate the Metroids, and there's a hard
Right,
number of them
yeah.
left. So it's cool because like there's a direct correlation for progression. It's like this time I got to 500 enemies. This time I got to 600 enemies. You can see yourself getting better.
But like once you die, like you have to start the entire thing over. Currently so you can upgrade the 3 things that aren't cosmetic in your upgrades are your gun type, your sword, and your dash. The game initially starts you off with just a normal pistol. It's good for ranging out opponents. Sorry. I'm really hyped about this game. It's hard to talk.
It's so good.
Yeah. And your basic katana adds like I think 10% speed to your running, and then you've got your basic boots which just enable a normal dash. Currently my loadout is a pair of sneakers which allows you to do an extended run, a different katana which lowers your speed, but you get a spin attack, sort of like Link-ish.
Okay.
And then I've got a shotgun for working on like crowd control.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest mechanic is that when you start running out of bullets, the only way to restore that is to start using your katana. For every enemy you kill, you get some bullets back,
I like
okay.
and
games
vice
that do
versa.
mechanics
So
like
yeah,
that,
you can't just swing your katana wildly because you run out of stamina. So in those moments, you want to switch weapons, and then you also get 2 supers, which annihilate everybody in the area. And then there's also one where you can use the second stick to just draw a straight line, and it cuts anyone who's in that line.
What system did you say this was for?
It's on the Switch. It's on Steam. I think also PS4.
Okay.
Akane.
Cool.
You reminded me of also a game that I forgot I had played actually quite a bit of. It's on the SNES service,
Oh, really?
and that's Super Earth Defense Force.
Right. Yes.
Which is like surprisingly like legit. Like I wasn't like really like, oh, it's an arcade style game. You know, you got to start back from the beginning. But it's really good. You get like 3, well, technically 2 hits per level because the third one will murder your ship. But you get to choose from like a selection of 8 types of weapons. And after a certain amount of points, it levels up, so it does more damage. You gain access as you level up to different configurations. So, for example, on the first 2 levels, you have the thing that like switches your shooting mode. You either have just the straight line, or so I play with like the homing weapon, right? Or you switch it, and all of a sudden you got 2 things going around your ship, so you have like a wider catch. And so depending on like, you know, the enemies that you're facing and their configuration, like it's advantageous to change that up. And so as you continue leveling up, it adds more. The next one like actually leaves them as like a trail behind you. The next one, like at least for this particular weapon, actually like deliberately targets things on the screen, and then you can just cycle through them. And then you also have like a certain amount of control over your speed, which is, you know, appropriate depending on how much control or how fast you want to go. And it's all applicable. It's all useful. And it's also satisfyingly difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But there's enough progression built into it that you're like, oh man, I want to keep playing this. And the funny thing is, like, every time you die, you have to go back to like the very beginning, but you keep all your level ups.
Oh,
So you go
okay.
back to the first thing. Oh, I'm already have like the level 3, you know, of my weapon. Okay, that first thing is gonna go so much faster. You know, I think the game itself gives you 3 credits to do it. I mean, you can cheat. I've definitely cheated a little bit in terms of just trying to. I want to finish the game eventually, right? I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it alone, but the rewind feature is a really good one. Oh, I got hit. Okay, rewind a few seconds. Oh, I dodged it this time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was just super satisfying, and I need to get back to it because eventually it'd be cool if I could get through that game eventually,
Yeah.
and then just be like, yo guys, you want to see me show off?
There's nothing quite like beating old games for
Yeah.
the first time. Because there's hard and then there's Nintendo hard.
Old school games hit different.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
So one thing
Old
that
school games.
I want to very quickly go over, since we're kind of running short on time, and I completely forgot about, is the Indie World Showcase.
Oh, that
You get
was
to watch
something
it.
that happened.
Yes, that is something that happened. It happened the same day as the State of Play, like right before the Game Awards.
I watched both of those, and I honestly can't remember anything from the Indie World Showcase right now.
Sports
happened-
Story.
Oh, Sports Story!
Oh,
It happened
yeah,
like
that's
right
right.
before the Game Awards, so like a lot of people like brushed over it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the main game I want to mention is Sports Story. Golf Story is one of my favorite games of 2017, I think is when it came out. It's a kind of like a spiritual successor to Mario Golf and Mario Tennis on the Game Boy Color, because it takes that idea of playing sports and then kind of jumbles it with a JRPG.
Yeah.
And it's so quirky and funny, and there's like golf physics in the overworld, and you have to solve puzzles. It's really funky in a really good way. but they just announced Sports Story, which is the sequel to Golf Story and features, I think they said, actually 10 sports.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's stuff we don't know about yet.
Weren't there
That's
also
amazing.
like mixed sports too? Like there was a sequence
Yeah.
with like,
Yeah, they were like mixing and mashing
like
things.
tennis and golf at the same time or something,
Yeah.
something ridiculous.
They're gonna
Like,
get
that's
real
cool.
weird, and I love
Yeah.
it.
I
That's
hope
awesome.
some things I hope for this game. I know the main campaign's probably going to be great because Golf Story was great. Main things I hope for: online multiplayer,
Mhm.
more multiplayer modes, and maybe even some multiplayer in the main campaign. But definitely online multiplayer, I think, is a big thing for me.
Yeah, it's exciting to
There's
see.
a reason they opened the showcase with Sports Story.
Yeah, it's exciting to see that this is coming, especially since like, Golf Story was a timed exclusive or exclusive on the Switch.
I thought it was exclusive.
Exclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like it came out really, really early in the Switch's life cycle. It was one of the games like, man, there's not really that many games
People love
up,
that
but
as
there's
a-
Golf
yeah.
Story, and they're like, oh, actually, this game is amazing. What else did they announce? Was
They
it just
announced, they showed that Dauntless was coming to Switch that day, which is basically Monster Hunter without the commitment.
With crossplay.
With crossplay, cross saves, cross accounts. That game does cross everything amazingly.
Yeah, that's the gold standard.
Yes. So if you like Monster Hunter and you like get a little intimidated by the game and you want something that plays similar to it, Dauntless is for sure the way to go. That's what I play because Monster Hunter is a lifestyle that I'm not ready for. But Dauntless is perfect. You can
I
jump
thought
in
I
and out
was.
when
I
you want
was
to.
not.
Yeah. Also, Skatebird was in there, which is a game that was
Skatebird.
announced at E3, and I think the Kind of Funny showcase, and it's literally just a bird on a tech deck,
Yep.
and it's really fun. I played like the alpha beta demo that they had that people can download on computers. It's pretty solid, so I'm looking forward to that. They also announced a game called The Survivalists, which is from the Escapist team.
Yeah, that looks cool.
Yeah, get a team of monkeys, build a society, survive.
Play with your friends.
Yeah,
Monkey game.
Streets of Rage
Monkey
4
game.
got announced too, which
That had been previously announced, right?
it did.
I think so.
Okay.
I think they announced more content.
Also, this is significant because do you guys know when Streets of Rage 3 was released?
I know it was a long time ago. I see a Genesis box here.
Yeah, it was on the on the Genesis in Japan, March of '94. That game is as old as you are
Wow.
and only a month younger than I am.
The fact that they actually numbered it
As
forward.
old as I am. We were both born in February.
Oh, I was thinking of I have
You were.
What?
That's the Switch's birthday.
So yeah, it's pretty old. So the
Born
fact
like
that we're
7
getting
days
Streets of Rage 4 is
Yeah.
kind of incredible.
They got the Talos Principle coming to Switch also, which
Yes,
I haven't played, but I've
yes,
heard is a great
yes,
first-person
yes.
puzzle game.
Yes, play the Talos Principle. It's
Yeah.
so good. I love puzzle games. I've beaten that game. I have it on VR too, which is totally different experience. Well, it is. It's the same game.
It's the same game.
But it's a different experience in the sense of like you got all this different input. I would love to play that game if maybe I had a higher refresh rate and a better headset and maybe different controllers, but still functions well. You don't have to have VR to play it. If you want it on Switch, get it on Switch because it's a fantastic
The
game.
only two things I know about that game are the anti-piracy measures, which I find hilarious.
What are they?
Okay, so when you pirate the game, you're booted into like I think the initial level or whatever. You can play that, but from there you're supposed to take an elevator. But, like the elevator just isn't there.
Oh, so they know.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
no.
yeah.
Oh,
they
that's funny.
know. And then the second thing that I knew was just the main character that you play as being that weird like humanoid-looking robot. Those things used to freak me out as a kid, like in movies or whatever. But like now I'm just so drawn to that aesthetic, so I'm like, okay, I should jump in.
Yeah. Another game that was announced was Boyfriend Dungeon, which I've heard about, I think, since E3 as well. This game, have you guys seen Soul Eater? The anime
Yes,
Soul Eater?
like
Imagine
my
Soul
favorite
Eater,
anime.
but it's the dating sim / dungeon crawler.
What?
It's like you date your weapons, right?
Yes, you can date your weapons to make them stronger. So there's like a whole bunch of different ones. Like there's a scythe, there's a sword, I think there's a dagger. I'm not sure what other weapons are, but there's gonna be a lot of weapons.
For clarity's sake, your weapons are magical boys.
Yes, and maybe girls too. There's
maybe,
magical
yes.
people, magical objects. Yes.
I have a mighty need.
Yes, and it looks really good. But I think what they're saying is you have the option that you can date whichever one you want to. So if you want to be like, I just like swords, you can date the sword, make the sword super strong if you want to. You can commit to one person and then just do that. Or I think they said you could also like not do any of that and just get like a cat or something, just live in your house with a cat. I don't know.
I heard about that.
Yeah, but Boyfriend Dungeon is a game that I'm super looking forward to. That game looks really good. I've came on to liking dating sim type of games like that, like freaking I Love You, Colonel Sanders from KFC, and like,
Yes.
and then Dream Daddy, like games like that are starting to been
Isn't there
growing
also
on me
like
recently.
Hateable Boyfriend. Yeah.
So that's a really good blend of genres. Murdered by Numbers is a game that's basic. I didn't expect it to take the twist that it did. It looks like a murder mystery game, like a visual novel type of thing. But the way that you find out different parts of murder mysteries is you do a Picross puzzle.
So technically, I wanna clarify this. Picross is the like branding that Nintendo has put on these, but technically the most generic version of what they're called is nonograms.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I saw this one and I was immediately like on board because I dig that stuff so much.
Yeah.
Like, give me some Picross, and makes it even better
I think
because
that
it's
for
like a
sure
whole
would-
narrative
yeah.
too.
I think that would make me want to actually play a Picross type of game if there's like a story with it, because just straight up Picross, whatever, was just do this puzzle, do this other puzzle, do this next puzzle. I'm just like, no.
But they make pictures.
But now it's like, oh, you have to do this Picross puzzle to figure out who the knife belonged to. So I'm like, okay, I'm on.
For the sake of time, there's 2 more games I want to mention.
Yeah.
One of them being Super Mash,
Yes.
where you basically you mash genres together and make new games out of it.
Yes.
I think that idea is really cool. I'd like to see where that goes. And then the biggest one, I think, of the show for a lot of people is going to be the announcement of Axiom Verge 2, which has been secretly in development for years,
I haven't
apparently.
played the first Axiom Verge. How is Axiom Verge?
So Axiom Verge is probably the closest to a Metroid game you can get without Samus being on the box. But it seems like Axiom Verge 2 is taking a different approach for the series. It seems like the art direction is a lot different. I haven't played the game myself, but I know that a lot of Metroid fans specifically love Axiom Verge. So yeah, that's a great that's a great one to end the show on,
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure.
That said, my game of the show is by far a Sports Story because that game was meant for me.
I'm still excited that Talos Principle is coming to Switch, and
It's a good
I
game.
hope
Yeah,
more people will get to play it.
seemed like it ran really well on Switch too.
I would
From the
hope
video.
so. It's not like, I mean, that game came out like 2011 maybe.
Yeah.
Like a little while ago. Maybe not 2011, but it's been quite a few years since that game came out, so I would hope so.
So right before we wrap up, I want to mention a few things. We have 2 weeks left of 2019, so
Wild.
we have our Game of the Year discussion we have to get going on. So that'll probably be one of the next episodes of Nintendo stuff before the end of the year. We'll probably take a little bit of a holiday break. I know that we have been taking breaks frequently just because
Whatever.
because of time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I started a new job. My schedule's been way out of whack.
And then obviously, I think it's been enough time that I've been moved in that I'm like, okay, it's time to get really going on some stuff. But yeah.
Dude,
So yeah.
Brandon,
Yes,
it's not just we're ending the year. We're ending the decade.
we are
bro.
ending the decade.
Game of the decade, not game of the year. Go big.
I guess
Go
you're right.
big.
So I guess we'll do Game of the Year and the week after Game of the Decade. So next year we'll do our Game of the Year discussion. That's gonna be a big one. So look forward to that. And we'll probably take a few days off for Christmas. We'll let you guys know what our plans are for that as we discover it. Sometimes we don't discover it until they come to pass. But I want to thank you guys for watching. Santi, where can people find you?
At Santi the person on Twitter, don't follow me. You're making a huge mistake, and I'm sorry.
David, where can people follow you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mario Party Animal. That's MARIOPRTY Animal. Also, if you just look up Conman RDW on most social channels, you will find me. That's where I do my content. We're on Twitch. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook Gaming now. We do videos, all sorts of geeky, nerdy stuff for geeky, nerdy people. So, yes, love being on shows like this.
You'll probably also see a lot of us together, just
Yes.
in general. So if you like us, you'll like David, and if you like David, you might like us. So just keep that in mind. But with all that in mind, guys, make sure to follow me at Babs. Follow Logan at Loggy Dubs. You can follow us as a collective at Break Room Arcade. If you want to keep up with the discussion, make sure to join our Discord server. There's a link to that in the description below. We love chatting with you guys. That's actually one of the primary ways we became friends. It's just because you're on Discord.
A lot.
All
The time.
That's the main reason I'm here, is because we became such cool friends through content and also like minds and stuff. So
Yeah, absolutely. So
awesome.
get in contact with us. We love talking with you guys. So make sure to do that. If you like what we do here, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us in all the places we do this. You can listen to our show on podcast sources. Anyone, all of them, literally
Real
anything.
live podcast sources.
Yes. If you like Google Play, great. If you like Stitcher, I don't know why, but go with that. So make sure to do all of that. If you want to help support the show, we do have a Patreon. You can join our channel as a member. There's lots of ways you can help support the show financially if you feel convicted to do that. If you don't, we just love that you're here. So thank you so much for always being here at the show and for making us feel good. It means a lot. Like, it's always really motivating when, you know, you see a new fan show up and they're like, oh, I listen all the time. This is the first time I've spoken up. And I'm like, wow, I had no idea. So
Please
tell
do
us.
more.
Tell us that you're here. We'd love to know.
love you.
But thank you guys so much for listening. Don't break your backs. Breaking the games. But for now,
Break time.
Time's over.
we didn't rehearse that. See you guys later.
Yes, we did. No.
Bye.